You know that hollow ache? The one that settles deep in your chest when you realize your entire world, the one you painstakingly built, is nothing but a house of cards? I knew that ache. I lived it. 8 years ago, I thought I had it all. A husband, a baby on the way, the picture-perfect dream. But then the cracks appeared. Small at first, then fissures, until my world didn't just crack, it shattered. And when the dust settled, I swore to myself on the shattered pieces of my heart that he would pay. He would feel every ounce of pain he inflicted, and then some. This isn't just a story of betrayal. It's a symphony of calculated payback. And trust me, you'll want to hear every note.
If you've ever felt the sting of injustice, if you've ever dreamt of serving up a heaping plate of karma to someone who utterly decimated your trust, then you're in the right place. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and get ready, because this is one of the most raw, emotionally charged, and ultimately satisfying revenge stories you're ever gonna hear.
8 years ago, my life was a vibrant canvas painted with the brightest hues of hope and love. I was a newlywed, head over heels for a man I believed was my soulmate, my ride or die. And then, the ultimate blessing, a baby was on the way. My heart swelled with a joy I never knew was possible. I envisioned a future filled with laughter, tiny footsteps, and the unbreakable bond of family. It was everything I had ever wanted. But that beautiful canvas, it started to bleed. The vibrant colors turned muted, then dark. The dream began to morph into a nightmare. So subtle at first that I barely registered the shift. He, my husband, the man I swore my life to, started to change. He became distant, evasive, his eyes often somewhere else when I spoke. The late nights became more frequent, the excuses more elaborate. I was drowning in the demands of new motherhood, the relentless cycle of feedings, diaper changes, and the profound exhaustion that comes with nurturing a newborn. I was perpetually tired, often hungry, scraping by on whatever energy I could muster to keep my precious baby fed and cared for. I poured every ounce of my being into our child, into our home, into him. Meanwhile, he was out there living a life I couldn't even fathom. The whispers started. Then the undeniable proof. It wasn't just one woman, it was a parade. His students, for crying out loud. Random women he met online. Even his exes. He was using our money, the money meant for our child's future, for groceries, for survival, to wine and dine these women, while I was counting pennies, sometimes truly wondering if there would be enough food for the next meal. He was blowing our savings on lavish dinners, hotel rooms, and God knows what else for his little escapades. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was a brutal, physical assault on my very being. I felt like a ghost in my own home, a shell of the woman I once was. The pain was a constant companion, a dull ache that throbbed with every revelation. It felt like someone had reached into my chest and ripped out my heart, leaving a gaping, festering wound. I remember one night, holding my baby, staring at the empty high chair and feeling a hunger so profound, not just for food, but for justice, for recognition of my suffering. My hands trembled, my stomach churned, and a cold, hard knot of something I couldn't yet name began to form in my gut. When I finally confronted him, there were no dramatic fireworks, no screaming matches, just a hollow, sickening silence. He offered weak denials, pathetic excuses, but the truth was undeniable, written all over his face in the way he couldn't meet my gaze. I was gutted, yes, but more than that, a chilling clarity settled over me. There was no point in dragging him through the mud in court. There was no victory there. I just divorced his sorry ass quietly, efficiently, and with a dignity I didn't even realize I still possessed. He thought he'd won. He truly did. I saw it in the smug set of his jaw, the almost imperceptible smirk when he signed the papers. He thought he'd gotten away with it, that he could just walk away from the wreckage he'd created and carry on with his charmed life. Oh, honey, no. That's where he gravely underestimated me. He mistook my quiet resilience for weakness, my pain for defeat. He thought I was just some poor, discarded wife left to pick up the pieces while he skipped off into the sunset. But I wasn't picking up pieces. I was sharpening them. That cold, hard knot in my stomach, it solidified into something formidable, something vengeful. 6 months after the divorce, as I was slowly, painstakingly rebuilding my life, working odd jobs, stretching every dollar, the idea began to bloom. A wicked, beautiful idea. It wasn't about getting back at him in some petty way. It was about hitting him where it truly hurt. His ego, his perceived dominance, his carefully constructed world of control. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was strategizing. My first move was subtle, almost imperceptible. I started by accidentally running into his colleagues, then his best friends. These were people he trusted, people he considered his, and I, the discarded wife, began to cultivate relationships with them. It wasn't about hooking up right away. It was about planting seeds, about making myself visible, charming, and utterly unforgettable. The conversations started innocently, a shared laugh, a sympathetic ear. Then the lines blurred. I slept with his colleagues, his closest friends. It wasn't driven by lust. It was fueled by a cold, precise desire for retribution. Each encounter was a calculated strike, a small chip at the foundation of his self-importance. I imagined his face, the slow dawning of realization, and it fueled me. The physical act itself was almost secondary to the psychological impact I knew it would have. I was invading his inner circle, his sacred space, leaving my mark where he least expected it. But that was just the appetizer. I needed to turn up the heat, to truly make him feel it. I reached out to him, casually, innocently. A text here, a call there. I played the part of the lonely ex-wife, perhaps a little vulnerable, a little regretful. He ate it up. His ego, starved for validation after our divorce, puffed up like a peacock. He thought I was coming crawling back, that I'd realized my mistake. He thought he still had power over me. And that, my friends, was his biggest mistake. We met. I dressed impeccably, exuding confidence and a subtle allure. I made him think we might get back together, that I was desperate for reconciliation. The conversation flowed, easy, almost nostalgic. We shared a bottle of wine, and for one night, I let him believe his fantasy. We spent the night together, and as I lay there, feigning contentment, a storm of emotions raged within me. Disgust, triumph, and an icy calm. This was it. The precipice. The moment I had been planning for.
The next morning, the air was thick with a false sense of intimacy. He was relaxed, almost jovial, already planning our imaginary future. And that's when I dropped the bomb. Not gently, not with regret. I delivered it with surgical precision, each word a perfectly aimed arrow. "Remember all those women, darling?" I began, my voice steady, almost conversational, a stark contrast to the earthquake I was about to unleash. "Your students? The randoms? Your exes?" "Well," I continued, leaning in slightly, a predatory gleam in my eyes, "while you were busy playing Lothario, I was busy playing a different game." And then I laid it all out, every single encounter. His colleagues, his best friends, the intimate details only someone who had been there could know. I described his friends' quirks, their vulnerabilities, the secrets they'd shared in moments of false intimacy. I watched as the color drained from his face, as his jaw slowly, incrementally slackened. The confusion morphed into disbelief, then into pure, unadulterated horror. He tried to interrupt, a strangled sound escaping his throat, but I powered through, relentless. "You thought you got away with it," I said, my voice rising slightly, imbued with years of suppressed pain, and now immense satisfaction. "You thought you could walk all over me, leave me to starve while you lived it up. You thought I was weak. You thought I was a fool." The look on his face? Priceless. It was a masterpiece of humiliation, a canvas painted with shock, anger, and a dawning, terrible realization. His eyes, usually so arrogant, were wide with a terror I had only dreamed of seeing. He looked utterly broken, his carefully constructed world collapsing around him in a cacophony of shattered illusions. I had just detonated his entire social and professional life. I stood up, walked to the door, my head held high, every step a triumph. I didn't look back. I just walked out, leaving him to choke on his own ego, his own hubris, in the ruins of his self-delusion. The air outside felt crisp, clean, and for the first time in years, I could breathe freely. It was sweet. Oh, it was so, so sweet. But wait, there's more. Because I wasn't just satisfied with a single act of vengeance. I wanted to leave a lasting mark, a wound that would fester, financially and emotionally. 2 months later, after the initial shock had undoubtedly worn off, after he had probably begun to pick up the pieces of his shattered reputation, I sent him a message. A simple, innocuous message. "I'm pregnant," I wrote, "and it's yours. I want us to be a family again, for the baby's sake." The feeling? Ugh. It's beyond words. It's a lightness, a profound sense of justice finally served. I'm sitting pretty now. I rebuilt my life, stronger, wiser, and utterly unburdened by his toxic presence. My child is thriving, and I am thriving alongside them. He's out there somewhere, I imagine, humiliated, broke, or at least significantly poor, and probably still reeling from the double whammy of discovering he was played for a fool not once, but twice. His ego, once his greatest asset, is now his greatest liability. The best part? I have 0 regrets. Not a single one. There's no looking back, no lingering bitterness, just me, my kid, and the immense, overwhelming satisfaction of knowing I played him at his own game, and I won. I didn't just win, I dominated.
I reclaimed my power, my dignity, and my peace. It wasn't about vengeance for vengeance sake. It was about balance. It was about righting a profound wrong. And the scales, finally, have tipped in my favor.
This story isn't just about revenge. It's about reclaiming your power when someone tries to strip it away. It's about understanding that sometimes the only way to heal is to ensure that those who hurt you feel a fraction of the pain they inflicted. It's about finding your voice, even when you're silenced, and making it reverberate. If this story gave you chills, if it resonated with that part of you that craves justice, then do me a favor, smash that like button right now. And tell us in the comments below, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed, or perhaps even enacted? I want to hear your stories. And of course, subscribe for more incredible, emotionally charged stories just like this one. Until next time, stay strong, and remember, karma has a way of finding its address.